Hi, welcome to Thrive O'Clock, Navigating Senior Living podcast. I'm Michelle Anderson, VP of Sales with Thrive Senior Living, and I am thrilled to have Sharon Norsworthy joining us today. She is the Community Relations Director at our community in Augusta, Georgia. Sharon, welcome.
Michelle, it is a pleasure to be here with you today.
I am thrilled that we are going to be talking about untangling the web, if you will, of senior living and what families go through. And I know you have been in this industry for many, many years, as have I, and we have worked with thousands of families over the years. And so today we are going to dig into what we most often hear in hopes that we can help families out there who may be listening today and maybe on their own journey of senior living. When you think about senior living and how families come to start looking and navigating this journey, what would you say is the most helpful thing that a senior living professional can do to help a family?
I would say the minute that they talk with you and they walk in the door, that you make them feel like they matter. Because everybody matters and they're going through so many different emotions, and you want to help catapult that emotion to something really positive. So your positivity is going to be contagious, and we want them to feel comfortable. They've made a very good decision by coming to visit with us. And when they get in front of you, the whole conversation at the very beginning needs to be about them. About the resident that is possibly going to be moving in with us. We need to have a deep dive into their life. And so be prepared to come and stay for a good 2 hours if you can. And let us take that web you were talking about and start untangling it one peel at a time. And as you do that, it opens up this world that is so enlightening. And they realize that this really isn't going to be as hard as I thought it would be, because I have somebody here to walk this journey with me and more metaphorically hold their hand.
Sharon, that is so good. When you think about families coming to us and speaking to families today, saying, when you go to look at communities, prepare to spend a couple of hours. Let's back it up a few minutes, even before they get to us, before a family takes that step, because it is a big step to come in and emotional step. What are you finding families are going through before they actually pick up the phone to call us, or before they walk in the doors of a senior living community? What are things you often hear they have been doing for days, weeks, perhaps months, even years before they actually start looking?
That's a great question. What I am seeing is they are becoming very complacent in the past couple of years. They know that this time is going to come, that the conversation needs to start taking place. But the anxiety can be extremely overwhelming. So what we have to do is lean in to everyone that we're talking with on the phone. And when they feel that you really are hearing them, we have to listen, we have to hear, we have to understand that this is not easy. We're in this every day, Michelle. We do this all the time. They don't. So they're looking at someone to say, hey, walk this journey with me. And as we do, we have to listen, we have to prepare, and we have to authenticate their feelings, because it's okay to say to them, I know this is difficult. And I've said this to residents. You know this very well, that when residents are either on the phone or they're coming to see me, I say future residents or future family members, I always say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really honest, how am I allowed to have a conversation with you today? Because we are not selling real estate. We're selling an atmosphere. We're selling life. And we want to do that as professionally as possible. So when they say that you can talk to them, on a scale of 1 to 10, you need to let them know that I can see that this whole decision is wearing on you and I don't even know you. I can see it on your face. I could hear it in your voice. So then the very next step is let's just take a breather and just let's start this by saying, every time you make a change, if that change leads to a better destination, then it's a good change. It's a good decision. We call it here at Thrive at Augusta the hard right. I'm making a very hard decision, but it's the right decision because it's going to be better all around, because we cannot forget not only the person that may be coming to share life with us, but we cannot forget the loved one, because their health, oftentimes taking care and wearing the entire situation all over them, they start to plummet. Their health can start to plummet, and we don't want that to happen. We want to catch it before it gets there.
Sharon, so good. I want to think for a minute about the emotions that we often hear from families of loving their parents so much, of possibly feeling guilty about taking this step. I want to think about how families can untangle the guilt, maybe the stigma that sometimes comes with senior living if they haven't visited a senior living community in a really long time. They may not realize what senior living is today. Sometimes families are feeling overwhelmed. They're just unsure what to do. And so I want to talk for just a minute about those emotions that families are feeling and how the senior living professional can help them through that. And then in a few minutes, we'll get into what areas families get stuck on and how we can help them with that. So talk to us about the emotions you often hear and how people can navigate that.
Absolutely. Navigating emotions to me is something that you need to be prepared for, because it's okay to come into my office and cry.
Mm.
It's okay to come into my office and feel anxious, because these are real emotions and we cannot hide our emotions. We have to feel, we have to discuss our emotions in order to get past. So if you are coming and you're feeling guilty, and this is a phrase that I hear a lot. I will hear, well, I promised dad I would never put mom in wherever they're going. And I say, okay, first of all, let's not say put, let's go ahead and say, let them come experience all the things that we have to experience. When dad said this 15, 20 years ago, what was senior living like at that time? Because the residents here say that they feel like they're waking up in a mountain resort or that they are on a cruise ship that hasn't docked yet. And so I take that and I always tell the residents, I'm stealing that for these conversational pieces, but the guilt is real because they feel like they're doing something wrong. However, going back to what I said earlier, when a change leads to a better destination for everybody, it's a good decision. So yes, we're going to have guilt. Yes, we're going to cry, and we may go ahead and cry with them. And I have, and you have, because it gets emotional. But once we talk through that and we listen and we understand, we say, okay, now let's go on to the next step, because this is the next chapter that we need to start looking into. And as you well know too, I've heard, well, I'm not looking at anything for about a year or two. And I say, okay, but something brought you to Thrive today, because not a lot of people will get up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to go visit senior living communities today. There is a reason that you have come to the door, you've called me on the phone, or you've reached out to me. And I want to dive deep into what that reasoning is, because when you can bring that to the forefront and you shed light on it, it's like this light bulb going off. And they're like, wow, that really is true. That's my reason. What's your reason? This is the reason. And then you reiterate that into the conversations. And then they realize that, hey, this could be really good.
Sharon, that is such a good point. I think one of the things that I have found in all these years of working with families, when they are having that guilt, we need to help families redefine what taking care of someone means, or what providing great care. So I've often heard, I promised mom I would take care of her. Or we often have a husband and wife come in, and maybe they are living with a type of dementia. And I promised my wife I would take care of her. I promised my husband, I promised my mom, I promised my dad I would take care of them. So we have to go back and help them define, what does taking care of them mean? Because it doesn't always mean staying at home. It means providing them with the resources and the support and the lifestyle and people who are trained to support the needs they have today, not the needs they had 20 years ago. And so helping families understand it's okay to define what good care is, and that is one of the highest forms of loving someone. And it can often mean allowing that daughter or son or husband or wife to fulfill that role again, because they've allowed us to take on the primary role of caregiver. Can you speak to us some about that?
Yes, ma'am. So when we talk about that, we often say you need to go back to being the husband and wife, and letting your loved one go back to being the husband or wife. Because guilt, once you get past that, don't let it overshadow the good that's going to take place. Because when you mention, what does good care define? What is good care? What is this? So if someone is coming to live at Thrive, and they are going to be with trained professionals, and they are going to have all the stimulation, because we all stimulate each other differently. And when we stimulate each other differently, then it's like this part of the brain goes, wow. And then they're looking forward to being with this friend. And then they have the food in front of them, and they have this consistent routine. And then when the loved one comes and hangs out, or wants to just be part of any fun activity that we're doing, then it's quality time that they wouldn't have gotten before. And what I think is so beautiful is that quality time, we live moment by moment. And that quality time you cannot take away from somebody when they are sitting by the fireplace, when they're listening to the live musical concert that we have going on, and they're holding hands. And you look at them and you say, okay, if this resident that's now living with us was at home, this probably wouldn't be the atmosphere. Not that it's bad, but when they come here, there's a whole different atmosphere. And then they can breathe and go, ah, when I leave, I'm feeling good. Either they'll tell me, I feel good when I leave. And I always tell people to be at peace, because when you leave and you're at peace and you go home and you realize that, your loved one is still having this taking place, and they're getting their hair done in the salon, and then they're doing this, and they're communicating with their friends and the people on the team. It's something that you cannot put a price tag on. It's something that is so amazing to me as I live in this journey, and as we live in their home. We don't work in their home. I should say, we we are working where they live, and we're very mindful of that. And it's an honor to work where they live. And when they feel that, and the families feel that, you can't help but to say, this was a job well done. I made a good decision.
Oh, that is so good. So good. Let's talk about another thing that happens that sometimes families have to untangle. And that is family dynamics. We all have them. And so what I have seen, and I know you have seen it too, is sometimes families come in and they are all on the same page, and that is such a blessing. And then there are other times where families come at things from different viewpoints. And so you may have siblings who see things very differently and believe they're not defining great care or not defining the next chapter the same way. Or perhaps you have one sibling, one adult child who is the power of attorney and may live local and be intimately involved day to day with mom or dad's life and the care that they're providing. And then you have other siblings who may be out of town or for whatever reason may not be as involved. And so we have definitely seen it where sometimes families are not on the same page. And how do you help a family untangle that piece of the web? Because that can create some great challenges.
Yes, it can be a very detrimental web right there. You have siblings or other people that are part of the family in the decision making process. I will say it is imperative that everyone is on the same narrative, because the family member that you are hoping to move to senior living for a really good quality life, they're going to pick up on all these different thought process through every one of their loved ones. They're going to maybe be stressed out because this sibling, their daughter here doesn't want to do this, or this daughter, or this son, or this. So, what I do is I say, okay, when I hear people say, okay, I'm the decision maker, however, mom always made the decisions, or mom needs to make this decision. Well, did mom always make decisions at home? No. Then why would you task her with this decision that's so big that maybe she's not quite up to making that decision? And then when they say, well, I got to talk to my brother, or this isn't going to happen, I say, let's do this. They may live out of state and it's okay. Let's all get on a Zoom call together. Let's talk this through. Let's find out what their concerns are, because again, we have to justify by understanding that, hey, we believe you have concerns. We're not throwing that out the door, because there are no questions that are not relevant. Let's find out what the issue is for those family members. And when you can untangle those issues, and that's what it is issues. There's some reason why another sibling or a loved one does not want the loved one to move. There's a reason. You got to find out what that reason is, and then you got to tackle it. You've got to then kind of, not on screen, but talk about these bullet points. What about this compared to this? And then you bring everybody together, and then you talk about what is that narrative. You want them to be excited. Hey, mom. Hey, dad, look where you're going to be going. How awesome is this? This is so exciting. We're going to do this. And if they can see your excitement and they can feel it, it makes life so much easier for the person moving. We have to sometimes take our emotions and say, okay, this is the right decision. Now I've got to make sure mom sees that I'm okay with this.
Sharon, you hit on something so key that I hear so often. And it is there's a couple of different things. One, families often say, we want mom to make this decision. And it may not be that it may not be that it's that she's not capable of making it. It's that she was never the primary decision maker, or maybe she wasn't the primary decision maker alone, and now she is widowed and you're asking her to make this huge decision. And it's a lot. It's a big change. And so really helping the adult children understand, give your mom the permission to do this, give your mom the encouragement to do this. And then there is the flip side of this, where maybe mom is digging her heels in and saying, I am not moving. And how do you best help families go to mom to understand why she is saying that? What is it that mom doesn't yet know that is making her say, I'm not doing it? Because if they only knew what we knew, they would be chomping at the bit to come and live with us if they only knew what we knew. So, how do you help families navigate when mom is digging? And I use mom, it could be any loved one, but when they're digging their heels in and saying, I'm not going, how do you help a family navigate that?
Why? Why is she digging or he digging his heels in? There's got to be a why. And when you uncover that why, it opens up a whole new world of opportunities. It may be, I've lived in this house for 50 years. Your father is no longer here on this earth with me, and I have memories, but memories live in our heart. So when we move, we're not leaving memories, we're taking memories with us and we're making new memories because your loved one would want you to have new memories. And so, and then mom, you're right. She may not have been a decision maker all her life on important things in the house. However, you need to give her permission to lean on you. Mom, I understand, but what is it that's causing you the most anxiety over this? And let's talk about that. We also will have residents say, I have this 3,000 square foot home. Where am I going to put all my very important furniture that has so many memories, and there's a reason and a purpose that it's placed strategically throughout the house? So then you go in and say, hey, mom, and they'll say, well, I'm waiting to give that to you after I pass away. Don't wait. Give it to your children now so they can see how excited you are that they are experiencing having whatever you've given them in their home, and they can see it every day. You get to experience the joy that your children are feeling. And then when you can help navigate that and you can help pinpoint what that is, and you say, mom, this is a very hard decision and I get it. But I have understood, according to what you've said, repeat back her answers. According to what you just said, what I'm hearing is this, this, and this. So what if I told you that I agree that you have lived here for 50 years and you don't want to get rid of these items and you are going to a smaller place? But what if I told you and then bring all of those positive things that they're going to experience and say, is it okay that I help make this decision with you? Don't say for you, just make the decision with you so we can live at peace and we can both thrive. Let's thrive together. And something else, Michelle, uh, there's something that you can talk with your family about. Say, mom, dad, where do you see yourselves in 6 months? Well, I'm going to be living here in this. Okay, but what if you're experiencing this health decline right now? So we have to have a plan. I need to know what your plan is, and then you're starting those wheels turning. Well, you know what? Maybe I really do need this plan. Maybe I need to have something on the back burner. And as you keep the conversation going, it's going to keep resonating with them that this is a good decision. This is going to be good for all of us. And then everybody can thrive together because it's not only the loved one that's coming to thrive, it's the families that we want to thrive too, because now they don't have that worry. I don't call it a burden because our loved ones are not burdens to us, but it can be very challenging when you're working full time and you have children and you're trying to be everything to everybody. You know that they're safe and sound and that the family's thriving too. And that's important to know.
That's really good. You know, you talked about people who live in their homes for long periods of time and really going in and helping them navigate the different items that they have that are special to them and hold memories. And we often in Thrive, and I know in other senior living communities, we often talk about it is like a grieving process sometimes, and it's okay to allow your mom or your dad that space to grieve a change in life. I shared with our team just this morning that when my husband and I downsized after our second child went off to college and we downsized, I cried. We were leaving the home that we had raised our children in and where we had hosted countless holidays. And that wasn't a 50-year time period. It was a smaller time period. So you magnify that. It's okay to allow them to grieve. It doesn't mean that what they're going to isn't the right thing. It just means they're going through emotions and a process of life changing. And so we need to help encourage families that it's okay to go through a bit of a grieving process of this is where I shared my life maybe with my spouse or raised my family. And we had a lot of memories here. But you're so right. The memories go with us. And maybe there's pieces of the home, actual pieces of the home that you could bring with you. And so many of the things that are important. I know another one that we hear a lot that I sometimes think is a bit of a stall tactic. It happens. People try to stall and then they get stuck. And I was actually talking with a really good family friend not too long ago who had just recently helped their mother move into an assisted living community. And she has the resources to live there and even has a long-term care policy, but she was talking about wanting to leave everything to her children. And you know what this one's like. How do you help people navigate that one?
Well, that's a big one too. I wanted to do this. And then when the family or the children are sitting there, I always look at the children and then they'll say, "Mom, I'm okay. You've earned this." And I will tell the prospect or future resident, "You've worked, you've done everything you could. You've earned the right to be able to continue to have that feeling that you are a king or a queen because you've earned it." I keep repeating that you've earned it, you've earned it. I want to go back to something that you said about the grieving process. The grieving process is real, and I think it's important to make sure that you tell people, don't tell them not to cry. It's okay to cry. I remember I had a gentleman move in 3 years ago, and he was crying as he walked in the front door. And he said, "Sharon, I've left my house of 60 years. I've been there for the last time." And he came in crying. And the last thing that I was going to do is say, "Don't cry." I cried with him. It was real. He's crying, I'm crying. And I said, "Okay, now we're done crying. Let's clap and be excited." And then I started doing a happy dance. And then we started singing and everybody was around and we just made it. But we weren't going to dismiss that grieving process. I'm so glad you said that because it's okay. It's okay to feel sad, but we're not going to let you stay in the sadness. We want you to elevate. Okay, now I got a little smile in my step. And now I've got a little smile in my heart. And now I'm feeling really good. And my big event is getting up in the morning and saying, what am I going to have for breakfast? And what am I going to do today? And what friends am I going to hang out with? It's important to do that. But going back again to the question you asked me, you'll see the love that families will have, and when they can hear it from the children, that mom is okay. It's okay. You've worked for this, dad, and you worked, or dad made sure you have a long-term care policy. Mom, use it. Now's seize the moment. Seize the moment.
That is so good. Seize the moment, seize the day, and live this chapter of life to its fullest. If you have breath in your lungs, you have purpose in your life. Live this chapter to the fullest. Let's talk for a minute about the overwhelming amount of information that is out there in today's world. You can go online and Google and find information about a variety of communities, and then the information starts to blend together. And then if you go to this step of putting your name into certain websites, you may not realize that they are about to send your information out to a multitude of places, and you will start getting phone calls and all these things happen. And so, how do you help families navigate through there's this magnitude of information? At the end of the day, most communities provide the same services in terms of care and support and activities and transportation and meals. Most communities provide similar services. So, how do you help families navigate the magnitude of information and break through all of that to understand where the right community is?
Yes, so it's kind of like moving bricks or rocks out of the way. You are bombarded, which can cause anxiety. You're getting all these calls, and everybody is telling you how great they are and wonderful. So, yes, I will sit and tell people, yes, we are great. And this is, I feel like we are a top-notch community. But then it's okay for them, give them permission. It's okay to research. They should research. They should understand, but they need to know what they need to understand. What questions should they be asking? Because you're not comparing apples to apples all the time. So you need to ask certain questions. What happens when a resident's needs start to change? What are their care levels? Is the price going to go up? If mom needs this and this, are you going to charge me more a month? Or when I walk in the door, is it enlightening? Is it feeling good? So what I always say is, do your research, but then narrow it down to about two or three, because when you're confused, you don't make decisions. And if you do, it's not always a good decision because you're doing it rationally, you're doing it quickly, and know what the questions you should be asking. And when I see people and I'm talking to them, I say, well, did you ask this and this and this? And then I will say, when you walk through the community, let me back up. You need to be at the community to experience what we have for you to experience. I can paint you this granular picture, but you need to be here, because when you walk through our front doors, in 5 or 6 seconds, you've made an impression of whether or not you're going to stay. And then when we get ready to tour, I say, okay, I want you to smell the community. And they'll go, what? I want you to smell the community. I want you to either smell something really good or not smell anything at all. I want you to look at the cleanliness, look at the walls, look at the corners. Then I want you to look at the residents, and I want you to talk to the residents. Ask them why they moved here. I don't have anybody planted. Talk to the team, our care team. Why do you work at Thrive? How long have you been here? What do you think about Thrive? Would you recommend someone to Thrive? And when you give them permission to do that, you can't do that over the phone. So when you're bombarded with everybody telling you how great they are, and they're going to tell you that, but they have to come and experience what you're telling them. And once you do that and they come in, they will realize what you have that makes you unique. And what we have is real. We have an atmosphere that is real. I sometimes will tease Michelle and I'll say, yeah, sometimes it's organized chaos. And they look at me and start laughing. I say, yeah, we may have music over in this corner, a card game going in this corner. We have people back in the movie theater. We have people getting their nails done. But it's a great organized chaos. When I had my children living at home, I said, I love this organized chaos. Everybody was running everywhere. But that's how we do life together. And when we're better together, we're meant to be communal people. And when we can do things together and do it in a way that is just going to make you feel and be reminded that every breath does have purpose. And again, I got to say this, you need to seize the moment. And when you've narrowed it down to three and you know what questions you should be asking, because I'm going to tell you what questions you should be asking. I'm going to show you what questions you should be asking. When they make the right decision, they know it.
That is so good. I think what I'm picking up on and what I've always encouraged families to do is when you go in to visit a community and to experience it, you're using all of your senses. You are looking, you are observing, you are hearing the life in the community, you are smelling, you are hopefully tasting by having a meal or a snack with someone. So go with your senses and go with a trust component. It is so important when families come in to visit that you meet more than the salesperson. The salespeople are amazing. They have the biggest hearts to be serving in this industry. They talk to thousands of people over the course of a year. They're talking to literally thousands of families, trying to help them untangle all of this and make the right decisions. And they are trustworthy people. And so when you go in, you're going to be bonded with that person. It's so critical that you meet the other team members and the residents, like Sharon said, and that you ask those questions. Why that community that you're visiting? Why did they choose there? So, Sharon, are there any other words of wisdom that you would offer families? I know we could talk about this for literally hours upon hours. There's so much to dig into to help a family. Is there anything else that you would say is really critical that a family look at when making this decision from the emotional standpoint?
Feel comfortable. People are not going to necessarily remember so much of what I said during our 2 hours or so together, but they sure are going to remember how I made them feel. And they are going to remember how the team at Thrive made them feel and how the residents made them feel, because you cannot hide who you are. So do you, be you, and make a difference in that person's life. Get them into Thrive, and then share life together. And together you can all thrive and be at peace.
That's perfect. What a great way to wrap us up. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.